This is the second year in a row we've had one of Husqvarna's FE350s as a project bike with Transmoto, and it's been really interesting because the predecessor, the 2019 model, was the earlier generation. So this year the interesting thing is they've gone softer, a couple of spring rate softer on the fork springs, and offset that with firmer damping. So it's actually created a real interest for me in what they've done with these WP springs. As you may have seen previously, we've gone out, we've tested the WP Xplor fork in the track shop, and that was a really interesting experience. Improved the suspension massively, but it's also the best part of $9,000 to do that. So today we've got together with Derek Mayo, who works at Chris Wood's Performance, who does a lot of the performance stuff for the WP arm of KTM Newcastle up here at new premises at Warners Bay. So Derek, we came to you with a bit of a brief, mate. Is that, before I go through that, is that what the average guy does? Comes in and said, this is how much I weigh, this is where I ride, or what sort of questions do you ask the average guy?
Yeah, just basically, just weight, the application you're using it for, whereabouts you're riding is a big thing as well, because some people may ride, which is a more rocky or, sandy areas or something like that. So, it's just trying to set it up for more, what they favour more to start off with.
Yeah.
Like everyone likes going on a trail ride, and like it's not like being on a motocross track where it's what the conditions of the tracks are going to be like. You would go from rock to, creek bed to tree roots to whatever all the time, So you're basically just trying to get a bike, set up to suit that, It's pretty difficult most of the time.
Well, I think that was my brief to you. I mean, we obviously do all the Transmoto events. We're doing a lot of single trail, a lot of rocky stuff, a lot of typical bush stuff. I like doing a bit of grass track here and there, which might have a few jumps, not sort of natural terrain type jumps on it. But I'm not hucking this thing around off motocross jumps a lot of the time. So I guess as I said to you when we talked about the brief, originally I thought the extra valving, the extra damping that they had in the fork was good because it resisted bottoming more. But as the more I rode the bike, the more I realised in those situations where downhills or where you've got really good traction even under brakes, where you're relying on the spring to hold the fork up in a stroke, that 2/8 softer spring was really letting it down and actually altering the whole geometry.
Oh, look, traction's a big thing, like it can change the whole characteristics of a bike. So, if it's not sticking to the ground for you, it's not going to be fun.
So look, they came with, as I said, they've gone down 2 spring rates from 2019 to 2020. So they've got a 4.2 Newton millimeter fork springs in both legs, but I think you've gone up to 4/8, which is equivalent of sort of 2 or 3 rates, which is quite a pretty significant jump.
Correct. I've done that mainly because, the bike is a little bit heavier. You have to deal with a bit of engine braking as well. So and you're a bit heavier than what I thought the standard spring rates were suited for.
Yep.
And it just helps essentially just helps to keep the bike, once again, keep the bike up in the stroke a little bit. And hopefully allowing it to be a little bit more compliant.
Okay. And talking about that damping, I mean, I think when you're talking about the two-stroke, the KTM 250, we also on the project bike, you said because one, it's a lighter bike for two-stroke, and two, you don't have like the four-stroke, you chop the throttle and it throws a lot more weight forward with engine braking. So the damping, or the compression damping you put in the four-strokes typically is also a bit firmer than what you put in the two-strokes.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Just to help try and control it just a little bit more. You just don't want the fork to, once it goes through, you're never going to have enough valving there on the other side to help control it. And it's just going to fire back at you and do all sorts of weird stuff, like put you in weird situations, and it's just not. It just won't stay settled. Is probably the best way to put it.
Well, I can't wait to get out and test this because I've tried the $9,000 version or the $5,500 fork, but we'll see what your $1,000 front and rear.
It is pretty nice stuff. That
to buy it with a standard component. So, and look, take us a little bit through the shock as well. Also gone up a spring rate or two on the shock spring.
Yeah, went up a spring rate and just basically put like just a setting in it, which I think once again is going to be a lot more compliant for the application that we're going to be using it for.
Much differences obviously between with a no linkage PDS and the exact.
With the linkage system, like I stay with a straight rate spring because essentially it's got a linkage on it, so it's doing the job what the PDS spring's going to do, or progressive spring's going to do. Yeah.
Well, I guess the proof's going to be in the pudding, and getting out there and giving this thing a bit of a crack and on some of the regular terrain. Maybe even hucking it over a double here or there. So I've still got that in you. But we'll give you a little bit of feedback once we have a chance to get out and actually test it out there in the field. So what happened? Well, the first time I rode this bike after we got it back from the guys was on sand at our Nabiac 6-hour event. And what really stood out to me was the fork was sitting up, which you want in sand, you know, throwing weight forward, chopping throttle, you know, gets the thing all out of balance. I instantly found there was a better connection between front and rear ends as well. I could pick up the throttle in the sand without hobby horsing or, you know, so I had much better control there. Then the next time I rode the bike, we went in some really snotty sort of pine forest stuff. So I was a little concerned, you know, remembering that the chassis rocked back this year with this new linkage. I was a little concerned by coupling that with firmer fork springs. You know, the thing was not going to steer as well in the tight stuff, and maybe a 15th, but not enough to be concerned about, because I think the fork's action, so coupled with those firmer fork springs, was, I think, lighter valving the first bit of the stroke, then a more progressive through the mid, and then good bottoming resistance. So set up better in its stroke, was much more composed on downhills, much better balanced. I knew where I was in terms of the weight balance from the front to rear. And then the last couple of days out here, you know, I've been doing some grass track and similar sort of things in really skatey conditions, and ordinarily where you're wandering, you know, so there's none of that tucking. So look, you know, I guess just sort of taking stock, it's been a vast improvement. You know, we did test some Xplor Pro stuff from WP a little while ago, and you know, there's $10,000 worth, or best part of. This is not as good as that, but for the $1,000, $1,200 that it costs to, you know, get these sort of suspension mods done, if nothing else, to suit your weight, get the chassis balance to suit the sort of riding conditions that, you know, you predominantly ride in. You know, it's money really well spent. Interestingly, now this bike sold to a mate of mine who's only about 70, 75 kilos, got on, he's like, geez, it's too firm. So he'll probably be going back to that. He rides and he likes the sort of slower, more tech stuff, so he'll probably go back to those 4.2 fork springs. So it's not to say that the bike is undergunned. I think just from a balance and a weight perspective, and for the riding I like to do, you know, these mods that we've done has made a huge difference.